This video is brought to you by Squarespace. So I have inadvertently started a yearly tradition on this channel where I make a different themed witch costume. The first year I made a costume inspired by my zodiac, which is Libra, and then I made like a forest bog witch type costume, and then finally last year I made a pastel witch costume, which I ended up giving to my friend Ellie, and look at her, she looks so cute! Last year's costume was very much like I got an idea and I needed to get it out of my system. It needed to become art. As cute as I thought it looked on me, it was not exactly my vibe, you know? Like, this is my vibe. So this year, I want to do a witch costume that is just a little bit more me. And at this point in time, I can't think of anything more Kira flavored than the entire celestial whimsy goth aesthetic. I fell in love with this aesthetic a couple of years ago, and in that time, it has really integrated itself into my personal style, interior decorating, my personality and identity, frankly. So this year, I think it feels only right for me to make a celestial whimsy goth themed witch costume. Now, shall we go and peruse our design options?
Get in, loser, we're going shopping.
Inside the Joann's, I was immediately distracted by the festive decorative wares, but I was on a mission, so I tried to stay focused. I was very focused. Just kidding, I ended up birthday shopping for my friend Shiloh. But whenever I regained consciousness, I walked toward the fabric section, and I set my papers on the exact fabric I was looking for this project, this delightful blue crushed velvet with gold celestial embellishments. After rifling through their entire spooky collection, I also picked up a bit of this transparent gold star fabric for an accent, and after getting distracted yet again, I swear this entire Halloween section is my personal catnip, I also managed to locate a nice woven trim that would make a great tie for my capelet, and after successfully traversing the Joann's, I slithered into the thrift store to look for a dress to go under this costume. I was looking for either this style of dress or this style of dress, and just before walking out of the dress section, defeated and without appropriate garb, I spotted a velvet crimson blur out of the corner of my eye, which turned out to be this adorable crushed velvet mini dress, which was perfect for this look. So with all of my most important materials now in hand, it's time to get designing. For these witch costumes, I usually like to focus on just making a hat and cloak from scratch and then making a lot of other accessories to go with it so it isn't too complicated. So for this one, I wanted to go for a dramatically large witch hat trimmed with lace and bows, Peter Pan colored two-tiered capelet with lace trim, beads and chains draping off my hat, collar and waist, a matching spellbook, and a matching moon staff. Some of this is a little ambitious to be completed in just over a week, but I am running off my unearned time management confidence as always.
Before we get too deep into it, you might not be making another impulsive witch costume this Halloween season, but you can engage in a different kind of digital magic with this video's sponsor, Squarespace. As an artist who does literally every form of art I can get my hands on, nothing is safe, I really appreciate how customizable Squarespace is and how you can create multiple galleries in a portfolio for different genres of work. My primary portfolio is for illustration, but I also have a dedicated portfolio for my costume and clothing design, one for sculptures, and I would also like to make a gallery specifically for photo shoots of my cosplays just as soon as I get around to getting nice photos of my costumes. I love how easy it is to keep galleries updated as you create additional pieces of work, because with tools like automatic image scaling, you can upload new pieces with the click of a button and Squarespace will arrange them for you. And the entire website building process is also just as simple. Whenever I initially made my site, it only took about an hour, and I could begin with one of their professionally designed flexible website templates. Thanks to their drag and drop website builder Fluid Engine, everything from colors to text to custom pages and website graphics are easy to tailor to your exact needs. And this level of customization even extends to their e-commerce platform, which allows you to host a store right alongside your website. And they have an endless list of commerce tools for whatever kind of seller you are. I am personally a very busy seller, so I use a print-on-demand service through Squarespace's custom merch, and they handle inventory, production, and shipping for me. Plus, Squarespace's robust payment tools allow you to manage all of your payments on one place with fast and simple onboarding, and you can accept a wide range of payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. So if you're in the market for a custom website to show off all of the creative pursuits you're getting into, you can head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can head to squarespace.com/PricklyAlpaca to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the magic. Hello. So now that this costume is all planned out, the first step, as always, is patterning. You would think that after all of the years in a row that I have done this, I would keep track of my witch hat patterns because I've made 3 of them already so far. I haven't. I've looked. I don't know where they get off to. I once again this year am going to have to make a witch hat pattern from scratch. By the way, I am once again using the Dahlia Creates Make a Witch Hat at Any Size tutorial for this. I will have it linked below if you want to do this. The brim itself is a little bit similar to making a circle skirt. I think we're gonna do 12 on the length from my head. That's not the whole measurement though. And then we also need the height of the cone. It's about the cones. I'm thinking at least 16. We'll also need your noggin circumference, which I believe mine is 22. If I know my noggin circumference off the top of my head, zing, I'm gonna be pretty proud of myself. Oh man, I was so close. 21. Next step, to find head diameter. Apparently you divide your head circumference by pi, which gives me a diameter of a little over 7. Then you just multiply your brim width by 2, add your head diameter, and then you get the full diameter of your witch hat. Okay, to pattern out the brim of the hat first, we love a nice convoluted arrangement of poster board, don't we? So we go in a circle, and then you connect the dots. This is probably way too big and unnecessary, but that's okay. What have I done? I look like a human taco. Hi, welcome to Taco Bell. Next, what you're gonna wanna do is correct your astronomical mistake. Well, that sure was easy and painless. Next, we perform some simple trigonometry to find the slant height of our hat cone. This is the formula for that. Okay, hat mock-up complete. For the capelets, I am going to pattern directly on my fabric, which is always a nerve-inducing process, but I'm gonna try my best to use mathematics. So in my design, I kind of have multiple layers to this capelet just because I want it to be as dramatic as possible. I have one that's pretty much elbow length and then one that I want to come down basically to the length that my shorts are now. Thankfully, the steps for making a capelet are make a circle skirt and then drape it around your neck. So first length from my shoulder down to my elbow, 17 inches, and then to below my shorts, about 31 inches. I might just call it 30. Let's see, a good neck hole, maybe about here, about 19 inches. So the way you do this is you take your fabric, fold it into a quarter if you can, making sure that you have enough fabric for your radius here and also here as well. I'm just gonna mark my radius. Now we cut the neck hole. We have our first layer.
I ended up patterning out the top of the capelet off camera because I was a little bit worried about having enough fabric, but the process for the second layer is exactly the same and the fabric ended up not being an issue because I decided to make these capelets half circles instead of full circles in the end. With both layers cut, I was able to go in and cut the lining pieces, pattern and cut out a collar according to the design that I did, and also cut out some foam inserts to stabilize the collar and the brim and cone of the hat.
So something else I need to do while the sun is still shining upon me is go and forage for a suitable wizard staff. Let's go. Okay, quick gourd update. Ants are eating very well tonight. See how the other one is. Whew. My usual staff retrieval pile is right in there.
15 minutes later.
Okay, I had to do some real rummaging on this one, but I feel like this is a promising staff. I feel like it's a little bit too long, especially on top, so I'm gonna break it. So for my staff, in the design plan here, I have kind of a crescent moon shape at the very top. And my plan was to try to make that out of EVA foam and then like put lights inside it and diffuse that. Then I started using the part of my brain that thinks. And I remembered that in the corner of my room, lying unused because the batteries were gone, I had this. And I used to have this on my wall for a little while, but again, I just got sick of changing out the batteries. I do not like battery powered light stuff. It's just not practical. But since I have it, I figured it would be perfect for this. It currently glows blue, which is not the color that I have on my reference sheet, but that's okay. I can either leave it like this, or I could just wrap some lights around it and have even more of a glowing effect, which you guys know I definitely prefer. I'm a more is more kind of person. I have a whole little collection of battery operated lights around. Wrap those around. So I'm thinking maybe something like this. It's pretty cool whenever the lights are off. Behold, my new shirt. I love it so much. Anyways, it's day 2. So my goal for today is to get the fabric parts of the costume, so the witch hat and the little capelet, all sewn together. I have already gone this morning and cut out all of the foam inserts for the witch hat and the collar piece. And as you can see on my little design here, I also have some purple trim going along the hat and both layers of the capelet. And for that, I had to get a little creative and go on a journey. So here's my convoluted plan for getting the right color of trim on this project. Especially whenever it comes to lace, I can pretty much never find the exact color that I'm going for. So this time, I just got some lace trim, and that's right, we're gonna go in with the airbrush. Am I going to be using fabric medium to do this? Probably not. And some of y'all are just gonna have to be patient with me. I don't know if this is gonna work, but let's try it out.
So I mixed up a lilac color to start airbrushing my lace, and it was actually working really well. But given the large amount of lace that I thought I had to airbrush but I didn't actually need, I got a little bit lazy and decided to try another method instead. I ended up just mixing a bunch of airbrush pigment in a bucket with some hot water, and I dunked my lace in there like some kind of questionable witch's stew. This also ended up working really well on these polyester fibers, and the dye job turned out really even and basically the exact color I was going for. So remember, sometimes throwing your expensive materials into a bucket with some acrylic paint is all it really takes.
So far, that method is actually going better than I thought it would. Everything is drying pretty evenly. So now, all that's left to do is to sew everything up, and that should hopefully go pretty quick, so let's do it.
So of course, the first step was to pin all of my newly dyed trim onto the bottom of both of my capelet tiers. I then stitched all of those seams down pretty easily, and this fabric actually gave me a lot less trouble than I thought it would. Since I stitched these right sides together whenever they were done, I flipped them inside out. And this is what the capelet was looking like so far. Next, I followed the exact same steps with the hat. I pinned the lace trim to the brim right sides together, stitched that together with the cone, flipped it back right side out, and then inserted my foam pieces into the hat before doing a quick try on, which revealed the hat to be just a little bit bigger than I was planning on. It honestly doesn't look too bad in the footage here, but at the time, I did not like it.
So the hat turned out too big for my liking, and I definitely should have caught this before I nearly finished the entire thing up. But you know what? It's fine. I'm just gonna cut the edge down so it's a little bit smaller, and then it should be good. Okay, so next I'm going to very quickly alter this dress. The alterations aren't going to be too terribly complicated. I mainly want the neckline to go down a little bit lower because it kind of sits in an awkward place. I want it to be a little bit more fitting on the sides because I'm gonna wear it with a corset, and right now it's kind of puckering in a weird way. And then I do want it cut just a little bit shorter. Since I have a short torso, the hem at the moment is like a little bit awkward.
With a bit of sewing squared away, it's time to avoid procrastination for once and try to begin tackling these props. For this build, I of course needed a matching spellbook, which I have done before from scratch in this video using actual bookbinding techniques, but we don't have time for that today. So I pulled one of my high school sketchbooks out of storage, and we're gonna give her a bit of a makeover. Ancient scribes. The front cover of the sketchbook was already falling apart, so I cut a couple of pieces of thick cardboard I had laying around to size, patterned out some foam borders matching my design to go on top of the cardboard, along with some circular pieces out of this mermaid scale pleather. Then I glued all of that together, along with a spine to cover the spiral binding. For the gemstones in the corners of the book, I just painted the bottom of some mosaic stones with some blue sparkly nail polish. And for the star and moon designs, I just cut a bunch of celestial shapes out of craft foam, taped them down so they don't blow away, and painted them with some gold spray paint. The cover also got hit with a base coat of gold before I could glue on all of the decorations and begin giving this cover a fancy paint job of purples, blues, and browns, and some fancy gemstones along with some sparkly bits from my stash. To begin decorating the staff, I cut a few strips of my purple lining fabric and began wrapping them around the bottom section. I also added a few ties with scrap fabric from the cloak, and next I needed to figure out how to attach the moonlight securely to the top, and my solution was a lot of scrap warbler. I sculpted it on as carefully as I could to avoid shorting out any of the wires involved, and that seemed to work, but before I could go any further, I needed a couple of large pastel gemstones. Thankfully, I had some silicone gemstone molds laying around from a previous project, so I decided to cast them out of resin. So I donned my PPE and mixed one pink, one purple, and one blue, and I was pretty nervous about these curing properly in these thick molds, but thankfully it was a super sunny afternoon and there was plenty of UV to spare, so after I popped them out of their molds, they were looking pretty much perfect. With those cured, it was time to glue them onto my base staff with a gratuitous amount of hot glue, and with everything attached to the base, I grabbed my foam clay and began sculpting big tree-like clumps until it looked like something. It's fine, we'll make it look good later. While I had my foam clay out, I decided to add some detail to all of the potion bottles that I acquired from the Dollar Tree. Once I saw they were producer approved, I packed it up for the night to allow all that foam clay to cure, and it was on to day 3. Day 3 was all about miscellaneous stuff, specifically fixing the hat and finishing all of the garments. For the hat, I literally just cut the edge a little smaller, pinned the lace trim back into place, and sewed it together. Once I added the foam back in and added a little bendable wire, I glued a little gold trim on the edge, you know, for that extra seasoning, and the proportions of the hat were looking absolutely perfect. Next, the capelet needed trims, so I took this swirl embroidered tape and sewed it along the front 2 edges of both capelets, and for the sake of variety, I also sewed gold trim around the bottom edges of both capelets. The collar got the same trim sewn along the outside corner, and with all the pieces sewn up, it was time to assemble, which I wish I could tell you was done properly with sewing techniques. I'd be lying, but I wish I could tell you that. It was instead done with hot glue, but I'll spare you the gory details. Instead, I'll distract you with this beautiful trim, which I cut in half and sewed to the front closures so that I would have a way to tie this capelet. I also did some hot glue nonsense with some sparkly buttons that I had. Finally, I needed to make these sleeves, and I did so with the help of this mysterious arm I keep in my basement. Her name is Jessica. I just cut some sleeve-sized tubes out, shaped them gingerly around Jessica so that I would have the right fabric stretch, sewed them up with a zigzag stitch, and bam, we had half sleeves, the likes of which would even make Avatar Korra proud. And after a little sleep, she's absolutely zonked right now. It was on to the 4th and final day, and oh boy did I still have a lot to do.
Hello and welcome to Potion Corner. I just ate 2 raw tomatoes. Here's the evidence right here. Let me move that. I am so excited. I've been wanting to do this for as long as I can remember being conscious. It just seems like such a fun activity, and a couple of years ago my friend Shiloh did this for a costume that she made, and I missed out on the fun because I didn't include mixed potions in mine, and I was just like jealous the whole time. I was like, oh, I want to do that. So now I am. What do you think of that, Shiloh? I'm kidding. In front of me I have the potion bottles that are soon going to be filled with magical liquids. I also have my isopropyl alcohol, which I this entire week have continued to refer to incorrectly as isotropyl alcohol, and I feel insane. And then of course you also need some water. On top of that, to go inside my potions, I also have some little beads which are already in the bottom of these. I have glow-in-the-dark paint, which I'm hoping works. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but I figured I'll mix them in and I'll just, you know, give it a shot. I have just a bunch of these iridescent confetti things, which I've seen people put in their potions. They look really cool. I, of course, also have, where did I put it? Where did you go? A bunch of mica powder, which is going to be the main way that I color these. I also have these that my friend Ellie gave me that I don't think I'm gonna put any liquid in, but I still will have them like on my belt because they're super cool. I also have just like a bunch of miscellaneous potion bottles that I can use to mix up cool stuff, so I'm just gonna have a fun evening. So I think the main thing I'm going to do for these is have them be like kind of iridescent. So I'm gonna start with this one because it's the most irregularly shaped and I just wanna like get it sealed up so it isn't a problem for me. So first I'm gonna try to funnel some confetti in here. I wish that I had a way to hold this.
2 seconds later.
Okay. Star Wars mug. I'm going to try to be very careful with this. We're already getting confetti where confetti doesn't need to be. Just very carefully. I'm gonna treat it like plutonium. Okay, so I ended up putting all of the iridescent flakes in off camera because that was just way too stressful and messy. I've put them in all of my little potion bottles. Then I also cut up a strip of like scrap iridescent film that I had lying around and put those in so that I had some larger pieces as well. So now I think it's time to mix up a little bit of a solution. And the ratio that I have seen is 3 to 1, with 3 being water and 1 being the isopropyl alcohol. I don't know if you're supposed to like do the water before you put in the other stuff, but I did not really do it that way. So I think we want it about there. And then for our alcohol, then for coloration, combination of my blue, pink, and purple here. Camera, can we focus? It would be really nice if we could focus. So I'm just gonna do like a tiny bit of each. That mica powder went absolutely everywhere. See if it can stir up. Oh yeah, there we go. This is pretty nice. It's kind of gray though. Let's just make this a blue potion. Okay, with all of my little potion bottles finished up, I need to now shift my attention back to the staff and finish decorating it. The foam clay part dried pretty well. I'm overall happy with it, but as usual, the detail that I put into it whenever I'm sculpting doesn't really stay. So I need to go back in with my wood burning tool and try to like get a little bit more wood texture detail in this. That way it doesn't look like Venom from Spider-Man 3 trying to strangle my moon staff. Let's go. I have respirator face again. But now I just need to airbrush all of this stuff. It's 2 a.m. There's nothing scarier than some good old-fashioned sleep deprivation to cloud your judgment whenever you're trying to finish a project. I can already sense that this is probably too much. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna keep doing more. Anyways, friends, it's time to decorate this hat. I don't know why I put it off so long. I know some of the reason why I put it off so long. I really don't know what I want to do, because in the design here, I kind of just like have the brim of the hat tilted up and you can't really see what's on the hat. And that's a problem, because you guys know what happens whenever I don't plan things. Color I decided to do in like that scrap white brocade fabric with this fabric overlaying it. So what I have done, I've very crudely made a sash of the same variety using literal hot glue. Wow, don't look too closely at my craftsmanship. Honestly, you might pass out. Sash here, tied nicely in the back like so. And then I have so much of this, I'm thinking I'm either gonna cut this in half, maybe try to do like some drapey drape with the excess around my waist, or I might just take this whole mess and just drape it off the back. Other than that, I did try to find some like big old chunky candles like I have on my reference sheet, and I could not find any. The Dollar Tree really let me down that day, but I have tiny little ones. Put hot glue just all over them, absolutely smother them in it. An excessive variety of trims. Just a lot of miscellaneous florals that I dug out of my basement. I also have these guys. Like, look at her. She's lovely. Don't even get me started on her. Oh, and don't even get me started on her. Look at how pretty she is. Good producing. I also want to take, per my design, little chains that I got here, drape them around outside of the hat a little bit, and then also hang some little celestial charms that I have from them. Little sun charm, little moon charm. This hat that I saw on Pinterest is basically like my main inspiration for what's going on here, so I kind of want to make it look like that hat, but a little bit different.
With that and staff fully decorated with excessive maximalism, this costume is finally done, and it is time for the reveal. How I survived this long without a fog machine. I had fun this week. Did you have fun this week? This entire process and project, despite being a little bit stressful because I managed to schedule myself horribly, again as usual, who's surprised? It's just been so much fun. My wrap up this week would take about 0.5 seconds because I have pretty much no notes. I'm very, very happy with how everything came out. I've been wanting to do this particular costume for like a year now, so I'm really glad that I finally done it. If I had like one tiny note, the skirt of this dress is just a tiny bit too short now. Without the corset on, it hits in pretty much the exact right place, but adding the corset makes it right up a little bit, and now it's like a little bit too short for my liking, which it's not a huge deal, but it messes with the silhouette slightly, and my design brain is like, ooh, that bothers me. I've got little shorts on underneath, so it's still very comfortable. Everything else,
I'm very happy with. I hope you enjoyed this video and this project. I'm sorry there hasn't been more content in October, but I've kind of been going hard on this. And I also have one other bigger costuming project that I'm going to put out for the spooky season, which will hopefully be coming in like the next week or two. So if you would like to stick around and catch that, you can subscribe. And if you would be so kind as to show some affection to the video, I would very much appreciate a like and a comment for the algorithm. But thank you so much once again. I hope you're having a lovely spooky season. I certainly am. But as always, the biggest thank you for this video and every single one of my videos goes to my patrons and especially my magical, mystical executive producers.
Band Off the Yellow, Cloud Max, Marita Wasner, Felly Smelly, Stabby Horse, Vicky Art 16, Ariana Trenta, Ember Creeps, Jaden Cypher, Cardia X, Christina Kimtia Art, Call Me Ash, Blaze Ravenscar, Lunira, Mossy Raven, Happy Birthday Month, I'm not saying that name on the internet, Sarah, Ice Command, Awendu, Liana, Ermler Jean, Anubix, Breeza, Sony, Brian, Phoenix, PNG Not Found, Freedom and Gus Gus, Cat, Dodo, Zyle S, Agent.Sketchy, Theamaia, Lovisa, Eloquent Silence, Enozyne, India Gloom, Hypnos, Katie, Sweet Winter Garden, Gravity Drop, I Hang Out with Cats at Parties, and Bean the Bread.
Light plagiarism.